Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the #1 Zerg player in North America in the blue. It's Scarlett. Facing off against the top-tier Protoss in red, we have Gerald in a best-of-5 Protoss versus Zerg showdown as part of the playoffs for Wardi's 2025 End-of-the-Year Championship. And before we get started, it'd be incredible if you could smash that like button, or maybe even subscribe. Help me count the algorithm. And Jimmy, what do we have? 1,774 likes on this video, on this cast, and I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyways, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully, you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better than the very first probe being persecuted for thievery of 5 minerals, obstruction of hatchery, general trespassing, and most importantly, picking Protoss, a capital crime. But the probe pushed away, and blocking that first hatchery and forcing the Zerg into the third is a slight sacrifice to the early Protoss economy for the potential of doing significantly more sacrificing of the Zergs. Having that third base so far out there with no creep, no queens between, it makes it very difficult to deal with the early adepts, and then makes it a bit more complicated to deal with the inevitable follow-up oracles. So blocking the early hatch slows down the Zerg build and is a calculated risk that most Protoss players prefer. And so far, Geralt just hanging out, or going by Geralt today, not Gerald. He switches off. He has accounts on each server and they're slightly different. I'm not sure which one is his actual name, but on Wikipedia it says Gerald. So I'm just going to keep switching between them. And let's be honest, I can't enunciate well enough for you to tell the difference most of the time. You're just here for background noise. Let's bring it into the foreground, just like the Zerglings. On the Nexus down the center, canceled immediately. And the Adept behind it, going to be shut down. Oracle forced to light up, already energy recharged as well. Another probe is sent out. Scarlett sacrificing a lot of the potential early economy here in order to delay the third. She has 29 drones, with 8 more on the way. The intent was to delay the third Nexus, and objective accomplished. But as Zerg, you have to choose. Each larva could be so many things, but most of the time, especially with Scarlett, it's going to be drones. The choice to make Zerglings this early on before you have nearly enough drones to saturate 3 bases is a pretty dramatic one, if relatively low stakes. Hey! Brenda, who is that? What? Robbie? Are you? No, Brenda, shh, it's game 1. You're gonna creep people out. That's my job, Susan. Oracle comes in, flies out, gets a couple drones and some permanent damage, as the prophecy foretold. Second Oracle trying to find some damage in the main, but just finding a lot more anger from the queens. So the weak points mostly covered. Overall, badly bruising the Oracles, as well as only getting 2 drones. Scarlett mitigating the damage, and winding up for, well, actually it just looks like the full-on macro. I was going to say a roach time, but we're 5 minutes in. Zerglings looking for an opening, and the Adept almost obliged there, but managed to back off in time. Blinking +1, the choice, the standard follow-up to keep some map control and keep the Zerg maybe under control before they can expand so aggressively there's no chance of ever moving out again. Scarlett with 26 more Zerglings in production, certainly not slacking on the unit count. Trying not to let Geralt get any sort of foothold here. The Oracles light up. A lot of the Zerglings will get burned away with the coverage. Cancels the Adept Shade. Queens almost take down one of the Oracles. And another wave. And actually, Scarlett, with the forward Queens and the swell of Zerglings, is able to completely knock out all the Adepts and badly bruise the Oracles and cost them a lot of energy as well. Still plenty to defend against the inevitable counterattack. And Scarlett is getting +1 ranged attack, roach speed, and an infestation pit on the way alongside that 4th hatchery down the center. An infestation pit is an odd choice this early. Not really the economy in this matchup. Rushing up to Hive doesn't pay the dividends it might against Terran, for example. Ultralists are not particularly great against Blink Stalkers, let alone Immortals and Oracles. Vipers don't have nearly the impact Infestors can be good. Almost all of the time, and Scarlett one of the best at using them. But I have a feeling that in this scenario, well, Infestors and maybe, I don't want to say it. I don't want to jinx it. I know this was already played, but still. Okay, I'm just going to say it. Swarm Hosts. She's banking up 1,000. I'm not even sure what she's waiting for now. Maybe the commitment. Sees the Blink Stalkers, but there's so much money in the bank. You have to spend it. It's burning a hole in your pocket here. There's not that much larva to work with. But she has 1,200. At this point, she's saving up for the next game. The lack of larva is the defining characteristic. Literally 1 larva at the moment. Still just spamming Zerglings. That is a lot of money to be banking. Thankfully... Oh, well, this is awkward. This is one of those things... Speaking of investments, but... If a stasis catches 1/3 of your army, it's your problem. If a stasis catches most of your army, it's their problem. And so many lings were caught by the stasis that Gerald has to come deal with them. +1 missile attack is done, and Sir Richard and his band of Swarm Host brethren. Not an accident today, but instead very intentional. Well loved. Like the secondary character in a Disney movie. It's just not focused too much on it. But a Nidus network as well. It's going to be Nidus Swarm Host. It's an old build, but it certainly checks out. The full swarm. 18 Swarm Hosts in production simultaneously. Well, I love it when a plan comes together. And this plan has taken a while to come together as Scout has been banking this money for several minutes now. The Zerglings on the left. And there's a mineral wall blocking any easy access to this location. The Blink Stalkers can get over there, but they have to know about it to deal with it. And right now the map is dark and full of worms, but conveniently they scream their way into existence, much like many of us. But the Swarm Host, a recall preempted. You can actually hear where the Nidus Worm is, as long as you got your headphones on, which I assume Geralt does. And get an idea. Also, it doesn't take a detective genius or just a regular detective. Either way, both are accurate to figure out where the Swarm Host might be, or the Nidus rather. A second Nidus, but wait, there's more. Which, I mean, better for unloading those Swarm Hosts, though maybe a little optimistic. Another one down the center. There's a lot of areas on this map that you'd usually use siege tanks in order, or Blink Stalkers in order to exploit, but Scarlett is turning the map against him. Some charge lots will assassinate the queens back at home, but Scarlett is maxed out. 9.5 minutes in. 83 drones against 79 probes. So far, Geralt has done a good job playing Whack-A-Nidus, but at some point, you need to either force the issue on the other side or invalidate the Swarm Host so hard that the Nidus waves can't do anything. He technically, I think, has Storm done. Indeed. The Templar Archives actually... No, did not get sniped off. It was just in the midst of everything. Another wave. The Locust will drop down. Storm is available. Scarlett actually very well stacked up a single Storm. Cooldown versus cooldown, but the Storms will be exhausted faster than the Locust overall. A whole lot of Templar, though. And the closer Geralt gets to 200 supply, the better chance he has at doing a dramatic and game-winning counterattack. The corrosive biles raining down and just blasting apart the pylons, but unfortunately the Stalkers, a single Swarm Host with Locusts. The Stalkers forcing the issue. Corrosive biles go up and the Oracle goes down. Another wave. Micros away. The Ravagers stepping into their own corrosive bile, but another wave of Locusts is coming in. But 190 supply apiece. This hasn't had the critical effect that Scarlett really wanted in order to carve the game open. But now starting to get a bit more damage. 8 probes dead. Not a big problem so far for Geralt, but it's increasing with time. The Ravagers are able to fire over the top past the moat of water here. A fleet beacon is on the way. The timer has begun, though it isn't a very vulnerable location if the Nidus ever makes its way back there. More corrosive biles. Knocks out some high Templar. Those fancy capes won't protect you. Meanwhile, the Oracle's being used to snipe off the Niduses. There's no other anti-air. The Queens are wandering up, both of them. Hydra's starting to trickle out. The Nidus Swarm Hosts go right back in. Another wave, and Geralt is starting to lose this position. He's been able to hold against the waves of Locusts, but the moment he tries to strike back, the Locusts focusing on the Nexus and will take it down with their dying breath. And meanwhile, Stalker's also being taken out. Between the Nexus and the pylons going down, Scarlett has supply blocked Geralt at 168 over 165, and she's still maxed out with money in the bank. The investment's finally paying off. Half of the queens are spreading creep in the center of the map, and creep spread is even more important than usual. Keeping tabs on this army and maneuvering around are absolutely critical, because if Geralt is able to pin it down, about 2/3 of the time, half of Scarlet's supply is useless. While those Locusts are cooking, all you can do is buy time for the next wave. First Swarm Host wanders in, but the next wave will come out. The charge lots actually spotted by Scarlett before Geralt realized there was a base there. And a mothership is on the way, which can be very helpful, as detection not easy to come by when you're relying on Locusts. I think the mothership is a very strong choice, and Geralt, honestly, very cool under fire here. As he lost a base, he's lost some units, but overall, well, it's actually kind of crazy how little gas either side has lost. They've both been doing a good job of minimizing the key units going down, and just trading out stalkers and zealots and roaches and lings. Not too many core units like swarm hosts or hydras. Another charge lock counter. Scarlett putting together the spines, the bulwark here, and the lurkers have now been developed and will eviscerate the charge lots. 2 more Stargates on the way. Tempest might be required, as Scarlett smoothly transitioning from the swarm host to the lurkers, which have a much more permanent sort of impact on the game. It's just a lot harder to get to early on. Both those hive tech upgrades, lurker range and burrow speed completed. Blinks up. Ricky! Don't know how that happened, but a single swarm host. Wait, was that the last? No, there's still 12 swarm hosts. The rest are hanging out in the Nidus. Just didn't get the memo. More charge lots. Scarlett keeping such control of the map. And it's because, in a very odd turn of events that we rarely see in this matchup, Scarlett has 66 drones against 89 probes, which means Scarlett's army is just bigger. 132 to 108 army supply. The swarm hosts make up 36 of it, but that means Scarlett's standing army, without even the locusts, is equal to Geralt's. And now the Ravagers and Hydras, that is the saddest recall. Oh no. He recalled like 6 Stalkers, which is approximately 27 less Stalkers than he needed. Active cloaking, but the Lurkers, and already some Overseers, anticipating this. Down goes another Nexus. Scarlett ripped apart the one to the left, knocks out the one to the right. The probes will retreat, which may have helped Geralt a few minutes ago, but now... Well, 78 probes is still probably too high. Another wave. Geralt forced back and has been unable to do almost any counter damage. Scarlett lunges forward, wades through the storms to kill the mothership, but the mothership brings down the Hydras in turn. Actually, quite a commitment there and did not pay off, but bought enough space to maybe take down the Nexus itself. Geralt only has 10 Stalkers on the ground and 1 less Nexus. The Ravagers being incinerated and blasted by the Tempest. But is it too little? And is it too late? The Stalkers are hunting for whatever they can get, but Scarlett is just overwhelming the Protoss defenses. The Tempest count is growing dramatically, but Scarlett already has flyer attack and Carapace upgrades on the way. The Corruptor switch is probably happening moments after this fight. 50, what? 50 probes dead? 73? The entire economy is totally annihilated. They're all dead.
He's dead, Jen.
Somehow Geralt went from 89 to the amount of probes he started with in less than 30 seconds. Well, it's not that hard to figure out. Lurkers exist, as does 200 supply of Scarlett. Just bearing down on every base and popping them one at a time. Scarlett with a decisive victory overwhelming Geralt in game 1. And honestly, it looked more one-sided than a Mobius strip there. That was not even close. Geralt did a whole lot of not losing. But at no point did it look like he had a chance to turn it into winning. From the very start. Now, Geralt is very good at the late game Protoss style, if he can get there. But everybody else knows that too. Almost to a fault. I think Scarlett timed that out perfectly to hit right as the Protoss army was trying to come together, but before it had really coalesced. Before it had become that death ball that can Katamari its way across the map and kill almost infinite amounts of units. And the relatively low economy. Swarm hosts can technically be the most efficient unit in the game. Not the heart of the swarm hosts, though those are even more so. But I mean, if you just send out your babies instead of yourself, they're born to die. That's their job. At least they're employed. All right. This message brought to you by Big Zerg. Check out today's sponsor. Both nonsensical and offensive at the same time, which is most of my brand. Why is that drone? And enough of that. The probe comes down and Gerald send it out. He sought good reaction time, sending the probe down early. Scarlett was very willing to go for the proxy hatch. Actually tried to land it, but now the probes try to box it in. How the turntables have turned as DJ Scarlett looking to drop a base, but now back at home, successfully distracting Gerald's probes. See, he's Gerald now. I don't know. Don't worry about it. It might be a server thing. Either way. That one drone opening up some opportunities. I wish that Geralt wasn't so quick on responding to it. I wanted to see the proxy hatch. Now, do I think it would have been a big commitment and instead not, as opposed to quite literally a placeholder? Probably not. But we're going to get a bit of a different start, as taking that naturally early on it feels so much better as Zerg. Like, just emotionally. I know. I'm a bit biased in that. I'm 1/3 Zerg myself, but some of my best friends are Zerg. It's okay. But being able to worry significantly less about those early that overload. I don't know, bro. Well. There is no pervert pillar there. We've seen several players kind of at a glance think these are cliffs, which is a little misleading, but you would think. I don't know if that's what happened or if Scarlett just... Because a lot of players will go Adept first. Most players. Most of the time. So, if they go Stalker, your Overlord's obviously more vulnerable, but they also have less opportunity to kill your drones. Because a Stalker, let me check. Nope, not Hero. 2 games. Since it's not Hero, the Stalker is probably not going to just walk into the base and try to kill drones. That's just unrealistic for most sane players. But taking out the first Overlord certainly opens up some opportunities, and just removing that information. The threat of a cheeky Twilight Council or a Void Ray opener or something. Well, it'd be a little counterintuitive to do a Void Ray opener after killing the first Overlord, but I digress. This time, one Adept caught. The Zerglings getting us around. The other one tucked in by the minerals. This is going to be... This That commentary is why they pay me the medium bucks. Like and subscribe for more noises. Or check out my Dronely I don't... Oracle. No kills on the other side. Slaps down a Revelation. Twilight and Forge already completing. And a Void Ray. No. That's what I thought. And a Phoenix, which is still kind of... Huh? See, I told you there'd be more noise. Huh? Ooh, losing it a little. Hold it together. Phoenixes is certainly one of the units you can build. Ah, he's gonna do a rug pull build here, which is lift up the queens and slide metaphorically underneath and burn a nade across the mineral line. Or, you know, I guess you could just kill overlords as well, but that's kind of a secondary purpose. How many queens? 5 queens. And not building any more. Scout a bit low on the queens in both games so far. The Oracle! Get off my creep! Oh, Brenda? Are you okay? I haven't been okay since the war! Why would you ask me that, Susan? I was just being polite. I can see you're upset. Oh, you can see now. Oh, well, isn't that a revelation, Susan? Now I think you're just being hurtful. Well, who's hurt? Sorry, blacked out for a moment. Oracle goes down. Phoenix is getting a surprising amount. Actually morphs into an Overseer, which increases the armor. And if it does finish, oh, it's gonna be close. But no, knocks it out. Clever move. So fun fact, each Zerg cocoon has a different amount of armor and stats. It is a relative amount to the amount it had going in. But if they actually manage to finish morphing, they get full HP. That's why you'll see players pick out like their hurt roaches for Ravagers. But the Overseer cocoon doesn't have that much more armor than the baseline. I think it's like 2. So obviously not enough. The Zerglings finish off the Adepts, as they've already passed their expiration date. And Mutas! You know what? I'm just embracing it. We're off the rails today. Sometimes, Scarlett playing a much less than standard Zerg, and you love to see it. Playing a real strategy game here. The Blink Stalkers, one of them actually, I think, is stuck behind the gas geyser, which is probably a good thing. Unfortunately, the Zerglings just overrunning. The Nexus will be ripped to shreds, I say. Deja vu. Are you lifting Zerglings? Is that in the air? What? Huh. Is it bugged? I don't mean the Zerg. I don't... Huh. That was an awkward one. I think it was... like being dropped as it died in the air, and somehow the animation. Huh. And again, the stasis will catch a huge chunk of Zerglings. A bunch of Hydras on the way. Scarlett is now at 89 workers. The not-so-charged lots are lumbering their way across, waiting for that charge upgrade, which is just a few seconds away. Well timed by Gerald. The Hydras are going to be an existential threat, at least until Psionic Storm is done. But the charge lots on the Queens, the Monarchy could be almost entirely eliminated. But Queens buying time so that the economy could survive is just another way they support the Zerg. More Zerglings taken out, 6 drones dead, single charge lot, chopping through a Hydra. Easily able to 1v1 at melee range. And Scarlett again, with the massive tech switch. The front hand, backhand sort of style, where you keep them looking one way and then the real hit comes from the other. I don't even know if she's gonna go Mutas. She has not built a single one. She's building Mass Hydra, which, I mean, the counters to Hydras and the counters to Mutas overlap pretty heavily. But There's 1,000 gas in the bank. And again, I mean, at this point, I'm not questioning it. I'm anticipating it, which is much more exciting. The big tech switch into the mutalist. But they can always end up being more of a muta risk if you choose the wrong timing. Scarlett, Baneling speed, Hydra speed, almost done. Not quite there yet, though. Which means fighting Gerald at this moment is far less than ideal, but some of the charge lots get caught. And here comes Scarlett. Fleet beacon, halfway done. But not quite there yet, picks up a couple more, knocks down the Oracle. Good target priority. Phoenixes as well, just the 3. Already started +2 flyer attack. That's a big stasis, an incredible stasis force field there. Come on, Scarlett. 30 Banelings! That's not what I meant! But you know what? I'll take it. And the Banelings in the middle line! And the probes get exploderated! 19 probes dead! And the rest of the Lings and Banes are gonna come out of stasis. And those mutas may stay as an opportunity as opposed to the actual switch. Hydras, Lings, and Banes are certainly getting the job done. The Banelings are rolling through, forcing the Stalkers away. The surviving probes won't be for long. Charge lock counter, but the Spine Crawlers in that little back corner. Unfortunately, the Queens and Hydras caught up against it. More Hydras on the way. Mothership in production. You can't just solve everything by building a mothership, Gerald, but you can certainly buy some time. Critical economic damage for Scarlett. Hive begins. Still money in the bank, but the charge lots actually did quite well. And through all the fire and fury, we see the late game tech in production, even while they were brawling it out on the field. Scarlett has lost 25 Hydras, 188 Lings. Not too many losses for Geralt. I mean, the cost is similar, which is not a good sign for the Protoss, by the way. Their units overall more expensive and rely on cost efficiency, which means if you're going blow for blow, the hostile economic takeover will be enough. 8 mutas in production. Gerald again finds himself pinned up against the Zerg and his own between the Zerg and his own nexus. And Scarlett's hammer gonna fall on the anvil if Gerald doesn't do something. And there's no light at the end of this tunnel. All right, come back to us, Dark. There's a mothership. This is just maybe if I don't die, but there's no hope. There's just utter darkness. I've been playing a lot of roguelike campaign, all right? You can go check it out on the Winter Gaming TV, a second channel. I'm really loving it. Meanwhile, you know what most Protoss don't love? Surprise mutas! Or regular mutas, but surprise mutas are worse. +2 flyer attack is done on the first mutas that show up. She's been cooking this up for a while. And now, Geralt is getting served. Muta's just eviscerating the probe line. The glaives cutting through. Honestly, they can kind of fight the stalkers too. 15 probes dead. Honestly, I think Scarlett's having fun with it. She doesn't even need to be microing this hard. We've got a lurker dead, a greater spire, adrenal glands on the way. It's all coming together. Meanwhile, Gerald is also in the game. For now. Pre-cloak... Oh, that was a misclick. He meant to merge Archons, and it has the same hotkey as cloaking. Though it may work out, this timing. Here comes Scarlett. There's actually a single stasis, which can shut down some of the Banes, but look at that spread. I can't believe it's not butter. And Scarlett realizes, unfortunately, there's nothing at the wall. The Zerglings get in. Geralt goes forward because there's not going to be anything to go back. No, make a decision. Make a decision. Where are you going? Well, the Zerglings slipping by into the third. More Lings and Banes. The third base being ripped apart by the Lings. And what's left? 15 probes dead. Another round of Banelings. That's it. I'm calling it. Let me see those G's. Gets the Nexus. Gets the probes. The methodology was slightly different, but the results are the same. Gerald? Well, he has a mothership. This is like the co-op AI. It's like, I got another attack wave in me. But I'm afraid that the lurker tech will be fully operational by the time the Protoss arrive. Lurker range is done. Scarlett nearly maxed out again. The only detection is a single oracle that has no energy. It's a disaster. And it's a second game for the Canadian Zerg. Wow. Scarlett with some nostalgic style of Zerg. Winding up with the tech, like that's a Brood War-esque. Having that Muta switch banked up, ready to go for like 5 minutes. And honestly, I think the only reason she made Mutas was because she could. By the end. I don't think they were needed, but they're almost always wanted. Unlike Swarm Host. Sorry, to all the Swarm Hosts watching out there. You know who you are. Well, things going less than ideal for Gerald. Scarlett is clearly aware. So both these players ranked similarly. I think Scarlett has an edge. Scarlett has been playing. Scarlett, the balance designer for Zero Space. I'm actually going to take this time. I am not sponsored by Zero Space. Scarlett technically is, but she's also here playing. And since there's no multiplayer playtest right now, I'm not surprised she's playing more actively. But Zero Space is having, I believe, for the Steam Next Fest, their biggest playtest. So that's going to be February. And then, apparently the plan is to go into early access, which was, they were really hemming and hawing about it, but early access with their campaign and, well, early access in later this year, like quarter 2, I think is the quote. So like March to June, something like that. What am I watching? Scarlett is waiting for Gerald. No, I want to talk about Zero Space some more. But if you haven't yet, you should watch the video from Marv, the creator of Zero Space, who developed it on his own, with his own money. Apparently he's made mobile games or something like that in the past and made his money and then wanted to make a real RTS, which is almost a direct quote. But about pathfinding in RTS and how it works, as comparisons to StarCraft and how Zero Space is handling it. And I learned more about pathfinding in RTS, not that I was the most intellectually curious, all right? Either it works or it doesn't. And StarCraft 2 is the pinnacle, and nothing even comes close. But you can find it on the Zero Space YouTube channel. And, like, even if you're not interested in the game, I think you should watch that video. Because it honestly probably talks about StarCraft 2 more than it talks about Zero Space. And just how pathfinding works in the complications, the difficulty, the challenges, the decisions. And it explains a lot of my criticisms with some other games, AoE 4. And why StarCraft feels like it does and why it's so good. But it's not all glazing it, all right? There's ups and downs to other things, like how units decide to move when other units are blocking them, and how things like siege tanks are fluid. Anyways, I found it super interesting, and I hope Marv does more. But I also hope he spends most of his time working on the game that's going into early access. I do think other sorts of similar games kind of poison the well a bit on early access, relatively high-profile RTS. But I really think Zero Space is not a successor to StarCraft 2 by any means, but takes inspiration without just trying to copy. They've got some super interesting ideas with the factions, and I'm especially interested in the Galactic War bit, which I pushed for really hard because I really love Star Wars Empire at War, and I still do, but I used to too. And I think that's something like StarCraft 2 co-op. If they just kept developing it, well, maybe it wouldn't feel as bad as it depths in your mineral line where we're in right now. But you know what? They just abandoned it. And now guess what? Your drones are dead. Corporate or otherwise. Ooh, that's fucked up. But meanwhile, all right, we're well into the harassment phase. But enough about Blizzard. And 2 drones dead. The Adepts Queen on the high ground will help out. So it looked bad, but overall, yeah, a little bit of early shenanigans. I know I really tried not to skip too much of the actual gameplay when interesting things are happening, and Scarlett did a very early kind of Zergling push. But I'm also super interested in Zero Space, and it came to mind, so I wanted to talk about it. So, and I will be doing videos mostly on the second channel if I like it. That's what I do. All right, I like to show good games to the fans. Not all of them are named StarCraft. It's just most of them. Chaos management is my chosen genre, which every RTS game is. So, but also games like PlanetSide, like Darktide and Vermintide, they are Billions, which is an RTS game that kind of rolls back into it. But you get the idea. Games where things go wrong, and you gotta figure out how to, you know, survive. Which, Gerald, probably gonna need to work on that so far, as Scarlett is keeping full control of the series. Baneling Nest... Wait, is there a lair? No. What? This is a bit disrespectful. So this build... if she builds more queens, then it's just going to be a queen walk. Because there's no other anti-air. There are 4 queens. These 2 oracles should be able to counter all of that. This is Mass Ling Bane. There is no lair. There's a lair now on the way. 6 minutes. Wild. The Adepts kind of just shade in. Canceled 2 of them. The other 2 abandoned to die. We'll scout the Baneling Nest, which you don't... There's not much more to do with that information besides probably keep a closer eye on your oracles, which are clearly hunting the Zerglings. You do not get a Baneling Nest unless you mean to use it, because every Baneling you build that just sits there and does nothing is a waste of money. All right, the time between becoming a Baneling and no longer existing should be as short as possible in order to justify the investment. Otherwise, you've spent a bunch of Vespi and usually you build more than one. Otherwise, you've spent a bunch of gas just sitting around. That could have been in upgrades, more tech, just in anything else. And Brenda, no! Oh, wait, that was just Karen. The Hatchery Owner Association meetings are going to be a lot quieter now. Well, not quiet enough. Because you won't shut up, Lucio. Brenda, just chill. You sound like Winter. Disgusting. You're just being mean. And meta. Sorry. I blacked out for... Here comes some Banelings, because the Oracles are on the wrong side of history. And it's too late. There's not enough energy to recall. The Banelings are just waddling in. And there's more. A wall of stalkers is physically blocking, but the probes are trapped in here with everything else. The Banelings don't discriminate. The Oracle, the recall is way too late. It's a unmitigated disaster for Geralt. Scarlett just comes rolling and waddling and sprinting in. The stalkers retreat into the mineral line. And now there's no probes nor nexus left to protect. The Oracles needed to be at home to defend this, but Gerald, I'm not sure if he speaks the language because he obviously misread the level of commitment. I thought it was, well, from his perspective, he saw the 4th, I think the 4th base is what threw him off. The 4th base was early, and it had a decent amount of drones at it. There's a chance that Scarlett actually transferred drones over and the Oracles saw it. I don't know if it went that far. But the Oracles needed to be on Gerald's side of the map. If the Oracles are there, it's still dangerous, but you can much more easily target the Banelings, mitigate. If the Banelings don't connect with the mineral line, the Zerglings aren't going to get the job done. You had one job. Well, the Oracles also wear a lot of hats, but in this case, it feels like we've already kind of stopped before we got started. Scarlett, the Protoss has lost more resources at this stage of the game. Got 99 Zerglings in the units lost tab, and a lot more could easily be built. Scarlett with a macro hatch in the main. What a disaster. Well, storm is on the way. A deja vu. We've just been in this place before. Scarlett with an overwhelming economy, overwhelming supply, and Gerald is limited to hoping he doesn't die for long enough to put a death ball together. I do think most of this is coming down to Scarlett knowing Geralt so well. Clearly. Anticipating the... the Zealots stuck in a corner. They don't have charge. It just started. So... are the Hydras going to hunt them down, or... okay, now that's just... slightly out of vision. I don't even know if that's intentional, but 24 Banelings with speed in production. Stasis wards coming online. Could just crash into those Zealots there. Oh, awkward. Scarlett doesn't care. The Banelings just rolling through. Well, this could backfire. Those Stalkers... wait, what? Yeah, no, Blink is done. But chasing down a few dozen Zerglings on the left means you're completely out of position to deal with a near maxed out army of Hydraslings and Banes down the center. And, well, there is Storm. The Banelings, some of them evaporating. The Oracles just wander through. I don't know if there's enough Storm to stop the tide of Zerg, though. The Zerglings clawing at the wall and then realizing there's nothing stopping them from getting inside. The Templar leading the charge, which is certainly not the ideal. And Scarlett is just ripping this all apart. A recall back to the natural, where there's already units in the base. Charge is done for the last few Zealots that survived. And... emotional support field. And Gerald will turn it around. We'll survive this fight. And for once, Scarlett actually doesn't have that massive tech follow-up. She's building 12 more drones at 81 drones. That's a bit gratuitous. I do think this entire game, from the start, has been Scarlett just freestyle. Like, this is a ladder sort of response. The game before was, I gotta take this really serious and just completely crush him. This game is, just throw it out there. Like, Ling Bane hatchery timing. Just mass Banelings like this is the cinematic. The Banelings rolling by. Just the threat of Banelings spreading out the Zealots and making it easier to pick them off. Scarlett's got 20 Hydras. Geralt has... not enough. He's got 0 space for error. And even then, has to hope that Scarlett makes some dramatic ones, really. Gerald has to play perfect, which also means baiting Scarlett into playing very imperfect. But I don't know if there's enough Storm to stop the hurricane of Zerg here. No, absolutely not. Gerald will get swept from the field, swept out of the third base, swept from the game, and swept from the series. Scarlett with a commanding, decisive 3-0. Looking like she's smurfing in a professional tournament. This was in the playoffs of Wardi's 2025 Championship. And speaking of, we have our anti-spoiler game from the same championship, which is Scarlett versus Nice. You may remember Nice from Nice versus Has. Has apparently retired, which implied he was practicing before, but he still shows up for some of the regional tournaments and does pretty well. Unfortunately, we don't get our like quarterly Nice versus Has disaster piece, but we do get Nice versus Scarlett. And Nice is well known for being, honestly, I kind of compare to Scarlett with that slightly off-kilter style of Protoss, where the units are kind of expected, but the timing's not necessarily. Not necessarily a rush or a late game death ball, but just something hitting you when you least expect it, knocking you off balance. I'm sure there's some martial art that people in the comments know way more than me about that's all about using your opponent's momentum against them or something. So like and subscribe, and make sure to check out my 12-step program for figuring out how to get people to like and subscribe to your YouTube videos. But here we are. As Gerald, not putting up much of a fight. Scarlett pummeling him in a relatively efficient fashion. And that series probably could have been significantly shorter, but Scarlett making sure she has the follow-up to each attack already queued up. If it was a bit closer, I think Scarlett would have committed all out to the all-in, which I know sounds like a dumb sentence. Full stop, but when you have that leeway as Zerg, it can cost you. Like if you flub an attack and the attack was 20% weaker than it could have been because you're building an infestation pit, double upgrades for things you don't currently need, and a lurker den. But if the attack goes just okay, like so many times it does, then you have the follow-up. Yeah, we're back to 10,000 feet, but this is Back to the Future as well. Sorry, still getting over being sick, but never sick of such great games for the fans. We see a similar start to just a few games ago. The probe getting chased away, but Scarlett able to get her naturally. So, a bit more comfortable. Stargate is on the way. You know the script, and it's because of oracles. The oracle existing is kind of required for Protoss to survive any sort of early aggression from Zerg. But because the Oracle exists, means that Zerg is limited to a very narrow set. If you want to do a non-all-in build, if you want to do a build that gets you 3 bases and over 50 drones, in any reasonable fashion, you're kind of stuck on 6-ish queens, enough Zerglings to box out Adepts, and then eventually layer tech. But that means Protoss versus Zerg almost always starts from the same sort of branch, if that makes sense. And then branches out from there. Usually pretty slowly. And sometimes it just goes straight up the tech tree like a bamboo shoot. But that early game is, I'd say, even like in Terran versus Zerg, it's also a pretty narrow range, but it is a range. Whereas Zerg versus Protoss is nearly identical. The exact timing, like sometimes the Lings get in and actually kill a probe or two and force the Oracle, which, a bit lackadaisical out of Nice, to be honest, but Terran versus Zerg, well, it comes down to the Terran most of the time, but occasionally you'll see some all-ins from the Zerg that are a bit more realistic. But whether it's going to be a Reaper into bio play or a 1-1-1, and that could also mean potentially either Banshees, occasionally a battle cruiser, Hellbats. Like, there's a bit more variety, but almost always the Terran versus Zerg builds kind of work their way towards Marine Tank versus Lingbane and then fill in a Lisk. Whereas Zerg versus Protoss expands outwards. Ooh, slick Oracle Micro takes some pretty heavy damage on one of them, but 4 drones on that glide by. Scarlett, though, part of the reason she lost drones is because she built so many already. 58 drones in 5 minutes. So, in my low APM challenge and other guides, I say your benchmark, 50 drones by 7 minutes. We'll see where Scarlett's at 7 minutes. Assuming she doesn't cut it at, like, 66, 3-base saturation. A very ambitious amount of stalkers, and that's bait. That's bait right there. That base. I don't think Scarlett expects this base to survive. And in fact, Nice is just going to get the Overlords, which is a much more, an easier target, and usually a limited time only one. But it may have removed the opportunity to actually kill this hatchery. The mineral wall is still not mined out. I think he'll get it, and the oracles, well, the queens are marching. And the hatch will be canceled. Stasis triggered. She actually noticed it. And the queens. This is restricted lair space. Stalkers get recalled out. Overall, kind of like this as well. He's walling off, but just the pathway to the potential 4th base. A clever way of going about it. Meanwhile, Scarlett's just going to go up to... We're at 6.5 minutes. That's 73 drones and counting. Honestly, that's the limit. 80 drones is too much, I would argue. But Scarlett, of course, would win that argument. We'll see if she can actually win this fight, though. Is Nice? How many gates? 7 gates. An Archon. Scarlett has the supply, but a lot of it's in the mail and hasn't been delivered yet. 13 Hydras in production. The Spore Crawler's moving up to zone out the Oracles, which are some of the backline defense. And the Zealots out in front. +1 attack on both sides on the ground for Scarlett. But those Spore Crawlers existing, the Charge Slot's doing a great job of cutting through the front line. The Oracle's looking for another opportunity, but instead, they're just going to be looking at the units lost tab, at least one of them. A few more drones going to go down, but Scarlett holding here with minimal losses to the drones is a resounding victory. I mean, the creep is already almost halfway across the map. The Zerg rocks are going to be dehydrated and bleed out momentarily. Well, actually, no, because Scarlett is technically creep spreading, which will prevent them from doing so. Unfortunately, you can't transfuse the rocks. They're neutral Zerg, and it doesn't count or something. That'd be a fun feature, I think, if you could transfuse the rocks on the map. Though I'm not sure. There are very few scenarios where Zerg wants a terrain blocker that Terran and Protoss don't. Maybe like to hardwall and go mutas, but that would make it kind of obvious, wouldn't it? Well, 6 Dropper Lords on the way. Scarlett, Operation Overlord. Mass Hydra Ling. Well, the Overlord speed isn't quite done yet. Some charge lots countering. The fact that the creep, this pylon getting hit from a Hydra on the other side of the moat. Nice has put together quite a strong army, though it's a bit strung out. So, really trying to keep control of the creep, but good luck. The Dropper Lords. Waiting for their opportunity, but a huge warp in the main. This is a big deal. This timing is critical. And Scarlett does not have the units to deal with it. The Archons on the front line. Drones will be slaughtered. The Queens easily taken out. Nice has picked his timing perfectly. But Scarlett starting to pull it all together. The Zerglings loading into the Overlords. The Hydra's trying to chase a couple in stasis. The spawning pool being targeted. Hydra's looking to intercept, but here we go. The Dropper Lords. The spawning pool gets taken down, and Scarlett will have to rebuild it. But despite the losses, Scarlett is still at 200 supply. This has been but a minor setback. And, oh no, the Warp Prism goes down. That's an absolute disaster. The Warp Prism was the only thing anchoring 40 Banelings. That's so many Banelings. And here we go. The Dropper Lords speeding into the main. The Hydras outside the front. Warping in to deal with this. The army's coming back. And the Banelings are rolling in. The Zerglings have dragged everything out of position. But this stasis could be massive. Banelings in the 4th base. Stasis gets taken down. The cannons are on the wrong side of things. The storms are going to be late. As the probes are forced to wrap around, the economy is shattered. And the Templar will be targeted. Overall, not the unquestioning success that Scarlett might have hoped for. Nice is down to 58 probes. +2 attack is done, which makes these Archons devastating. The Storms, not really caring about the livelihood of the Hydras. Of the Oracles, rather. Targets down the Nexus. But Nice does an okay job of pulling things back together, juggling back some of the more valuable units. Immortal's not very well suited to dealing with all this. Loses one of the Archons, but the Hydras will eventually be cut down. Scarlett down to 130 supply. Nice down to 94. Scarlett destroying 6,800, 1,800 resources to 7,628. Overall, Nice getting the better end of the total trade there. But in the grand scheme of things, in the state of the game, a clear victory for Scarlett. Knocking out a base, knocking out a bunch of probes, and leaving Nice without nearly enough units to do a real counterattack. But he's got to try anyways. The Dropper Lords are still mostly intact, waiting for another payload. But for now, Scarlett does not quite have the units to split off. Though maybe thinking about a Baneling drop. +2 ranged attack. Oh, the Warp Prism found its way through yet again. Banelings rolling in. Banelings rolling out. You can't explain that. The Queens! Oh, no! We got him. Yeah, good job, Susan. Whatever. I don't... The Banelings are saved by the Dropper Lord, which is quite a situation. Meanwhile, the Storms will wash over. The Storm front evaporating the Banes, but maybe a little bit too late. As the Templar go down, only a single Archon merge. The Hydras and Lynx flooding the field. And another Nexus will come up. And there's a real chance this Nexus goes down. The Zerglings buying time for the Hydras to pick off the Archons. The Zealots as well. Stutter stepping back. The Hydras are getting cornered. Another Archon goes down, but Nice holds it together. Maintains a good enough probe count. But now Scarlett. Hive Tech is coming online. Adrenal Glands is on the way on that second spawning pool. 81 drones scattered throughout. The income gap is a bit egregious. Nice has played a scrappy game. A Baneling drop is avoided. Would have seen the counter come up if I missed it that badly. It's happened before. Poking at some of the Zealots. Another. But Hive is already done. Scarlett's going up to 90-something drones. Is there a lurker den? No. There's none of the other Hive tech. But is it needed? As the Dropper Lords come in again, another Zealot counter is intercepted by the Zerg already being there. And look at the efficiency of the creep spread from Scarlett. Even though the queens have been desperately defending and keeping things together at home, the creep spread is still stretching out far enough in order to intercept those charge lots, provide vision and mobility. Another drop is loaded up. And Scarlett is winding up for another round. Only 12 Banelings, those are rookie numbers. But Adrenal Gland, yeah, that's what I thought. Here we go again. Another drop into the main, and only a few Zealots warped in to deal with it. The Banelings down the center, a single Archon, well positioned. But a couple Banelings make it through. Probes will go down. The Zerglings overwhelming the Zealots in the main. But this should be cleaned up. The Adrenalings are very, very good. Only +2 attack. They get through the cannon. They kill a few more probes. Lurker Den is on the way as Scarlett. There is that risk of overcommitting. Nice has the army now. Has going on half a dozen Archon. Storm, 4 bases, relatively solid. Scarlett's max army supply is 110 because she's got 90 drones, which is borderline at the moment. Another round, but this time bringing some Hydras with it. The Dropper Lords, and I suspect this will be a devastating attack. The Zealots are warped in. Another round, but the main attack is at the 4th base. The Banelings are rolling it on either side. But I keep getting excited and, well, I thought Nice had this under control. But the Hydra's fighting in the streets of his own base. The Immortal juggling. And we'll eventually be able to dunk on everything here. Scarlett, driven back from the main. Nice, doing a good job partitioning his army. There's still 34 Banelings rolling around. That Lurker Den is done. Scarlett has 22 Lurkers in the bank if she wants them right now. Though not nearly enough Hydras to build that many. It's a process. Oh, the charge lots are about to charge forward and then realize their lives shouldn't be thrown away so easily. I mean, the Immortal drop actually takes out the spine. The Storm's coating the field. And going for the Warp Prism, while the Immortal's right there, though, will be taken out. What a hero, though. 13 kills on that Immortal. And another couple on the left side. And it refuses to... It's too angry to die. That's how they get their name. Scarlett actually dropping a bit in supply. And doesn't have the minerals to replace it. But there are 26... Oh, he tries to recall! And no! The Immortal dies. And with it, hope. I love that he tried to recall that one Immortal. Of all things, he had a couple on the other side. I don't know where this Archon just was hanging out, but the Dropper Lords are once again pressed into service. Feeling a bit strung out at the moment. The creep has encroached, almost blocking any other... It's about to block any expansion from here for Nice. But Lurker's finally on the way, as Scarlett has had enough of running around and is looking to slice through. Nidus network as well. Scarlett's still maxed out and has been for quite a while. How many Templar? 5 Templar, 4 Archons and Immortals, but this is a impossible push. There's no fleet beacon, there's no mothership. Nice says, I don't know how to fight that, so I won't. Which is probably the best case scenario. There's no detection. Where's that one observer? Okay. Warp Prism will be taken out. The Templar, of all things, will be intercepted. Though the Lurker's not quite able to aim perfectly. Loses a couple Templar with full energy. Gets 1 Storm off. The Hydra's wading through it. The main base being ransacked by Zerglings. The Natural being sliced by Lurkers. Nice has his army down the center. But the heart of the swarm is becoming increasingly hostile to the Protoss, and they weren't very nice in the first place, if you know what I mean. Another spawning pool on the way, just in case. The drones on the run. The lurkers slicing through to the only mining base. The dropper lord survived yet again. 20 drones dead is nice. The key point is how decisive he's been throughout all this. That we saw Gerald really struggling with. He knows it's a bad position. But sometimes, if you commit hard enough, the engagement goes your way. Your results may vary. Scarlett? Well, she has 22 larvae and plenty of money to spend. Producing not... Are you kidding me? That's Scarlett in a nutshell. Like, I am actively base trading. My opponent has no economy. You know what I really need? Is 21 more drones. No! That is possibly the only choice that could cost Scarlett the game. And even then, I think the lead is nearly insurmountable. A recall to the natural. There's 21 probes somewhere. Somehow getting away from the lurkers. Gonna collapse on these. The lurkers easily cleaned up, and well, there's another round that there's still, the floor is lurkers. Like, there's only the one observer, but there's still a robo, so technically could build some more. Scarlett has managed to put herself in the only position that there's even a dream of Nice taking this. Nice gonna come in. It just keeps going. There's just more. And they just keep coming up. And Nice will be going out as Scarlett overwhelms the Protoss yet again. A bit less decisively. But Nice did a good job of boxing out some of the attacks and getting some counter damage done. But Scarlett Swarm Zerg, the Mass Hydraling Bane. I want to say, in that game, take a guess. How many Hydras? I'm going to say 73. Because remember that many of them turned into lurkers, so. 97 Hydras died. I was going to go higher. But it felt ridiculous to say 100 Hydras. But it was close to 100 and 18 lurkers, if you want to count them. So, if it fits your narrative, you can count them if you'd like. But don't lie. Let me know. Were you right? Or, are you lying? Scarlett looking... not unbeatable, but certainly incredibly strong right now. Especially against anyone but the very top tier of Protoss. So we'll see. I'm looking forward to more. And Zero Space. Once again, not paid, but I hope. I'll let you know. And you can try it yourself. But thank you for watching. I hope it made your day a little bit better. If you got the means of motivation, be awesome to check out Patreon. Thank you to our Mule Tier patrons, Big Jiggy, Devendor, Kate, Mario. Special thank you to Humpmaster, which I saw a couple people asking, with the one-time end-of-the-year donation. But I do really appreciate it, so thank you. And also, you know, Python Plus. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free for now. And you're breathtaking. And good luck, have fun. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching. Make sure to check out this video Jimmy picked out, by the way. Yeah, I got it. Stay chill.